to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood-Coleman, the Chief Editorial Officer and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. This week I'm featuring the United States, given that it is the first anniversary of the insurrectionist attack on the United States Capitol. On January 6, 2022, the first anniversary of the unprecedented attack by insurrectionists on the United States Capitol, President Joe Biden issued a blistering and impassioned address, taking forceful and direct aim at his predecessor, Donald Trump, for attempting to upend democratic order and incite violence at the center of the United States legislative power and governance. Speaking from the National Statuary Hall at the Capitol, President Joe Biden declared, "1 year ago today, in this sacred place, democracy was attacked." For the first time in our history, a president had not just lost an election. He tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power as a violent mob breached the Capitol. President Joe Biden vociferously assailed Trump for refusing to accept election defeat. Laying out Trump's mendacity over the 2020 elections, President Biden explained a former president of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election. He has done so because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interests and America's interests. Chastising Trump for refusing to accept the election results and reminding Americans of the central tenet of patriotism, President Biden said, you cannot love your country only when you win." He added, "You can't obey the law only when it's convenient. You can't be patriotic when you embrace and enable lies." Without ever mentioning Trump by name, President Biden took forceful and direct aim at his predecessor. Underlining his utter contempt for his predecessor, President Biden made 16 references in total to Trump, never by name, but as the former president, emphasizing that he, and he alone, was the legitimate winner of the 2020 election, the sole claimant to the presidency. President Biden denounced Trump as the defeated former president. With stunning intensity, President Biden's characterization of Trump was as follows. He's not just the former president, he's a defeated former president, defeated by a margin of over 7 million of your votes in a full and free and fair election. Biden also claimed the mantle of being the man to secure the most votes ever in American history. President Biden made certain to condemn the Trump supporters who violently breached the Capitol, referencing the ludicrous suggestion from Republican Representative Andrew Clyde of Georgia, who suggested that the people who attacked the Capitol were merely paying a tourist visit. President Biden rebuked those who had attempted to diminish the enormity of the crimes committed on January 6, 2021. He said, this was not a group of tourists. This was an armed insurrection. They weren't looking to uphold the will of the people. They were looking to deny the will of the people. It was apparent that this address by President Biden, a man generally known for his affability and congeniality towards members of the Republican Party, would be a departure from his signature conciliation. Crucially, the address was not intended to conjure up false unity. There was no room for prevarication, negotiation, or broad interpretation. The Biden speech constituted a sharp series of shots across the proverbial bow to those who would dare undermine and attack American democracy. Moreover, the 46th President of the United States was making it vividly clear that his mission, indeed the raison d'être for his presidency, would be to safeguard American democracy. President Biden vehemently declared, "I did not seek this fight brought to the Capitol 1 year ago today, but I will not shrink from it either. I will stand in this breach." Passionately proclaiming himself to be the protector of American democracy and democratic values, President Biden asserted, "I will defend this nation and allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy." There are stories that I've covered this week and will continue to cover next week, and these include the buildup of Russian forces on the border with Ukraine. Satellite images captured by a private United States company, Maxar Technologies, showed Russia was still building up its forces in annexed Crimea and near Ukraine in December of 2021. The satellite images appear to depict a base in Crimea stacked with tanks and other armored vehicles. Only a few months early in October 21, that very base was described as half empty. President Biden has had a conversation with Vladimir Putin, warning him against an invasion of Ukraine and promising a two-path response in the face of Russian aggression. One path entailed a diplomatic path forward headed towards de-escalation. The second option was focused on deterrence and would entail harsh sanctions and increased NATO activity in Eastern Europe. I'll cover the plan as well as further talks scheduled for next week in Geneva. I'm also covering protests in Kazakhstan over rising fuel prices and the collapse of the government there. Russia is reportedly sending troops to shore up the president. The judicial persecution of Aung San Suu Kyi by the military junta of Burma, also known as Myanmar, is also on my radar. Also, I'll be covering the crackdown on pro-democracy media in Hong Kong and the attack on the Haitian leader on New Year's Day, marking continued turmoil and instability in the Caribbean island nation. Look out for these stories, as well as coverage of the ongoing pandemic and the pernicious spread of the Omicron variant in the future. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and remember, now more than ever, we live in an interconnected world.